We continue now at the top of Daf Chavtes Amud Aleph Meseches Megillah. This is Megillah Daf 29a. The Brisa says, "Mevatlin Talmud Torah lahotzaas hamesu la'achnasas hakala." You're allowed to be mevatel Talmud Torah in order to carry out the dead or in order to escort the bride. Amru olav al Rabbi Yehuda b'Rabbi Eloi. They said about Rabbi Yehuda b'Rabbi Eloi, "Shayim mevatel Talmud Torah lahotzaas hamesu la'achnasas hakala." That he was mevatel Talmud Torah in order to carry out the dead, to bury the dead, and in order to celebrate with the kala. When is this true? If it's a situation where you don't have enough people, an appropriate amount of people for the funeral or for the wedding. But if you have an appropriate amount of people, then in such a situation, you shouldn't be mevatel Torah. The kama called sarcha. Now, what is considered to be an appropriate amount of people? Amar Rav Shmuel bar Inya mishmei derav. Rav Shmuel bar Inya says in the name of Rav, Treser alfei gavri. It's 12,000 men. V'shisa alfei shipure. And 6,000 people who are like blowing the horns in honor of the procession. The Gemara says, "V'amri la." Some have the version Treisar alfei gavri, 12,000 men. Uminayu, and from the 12,000 men, Shisa alfei shipuri, have 6,000 people who are blowing the horns. Ula Amar Ula says, "Kagon de chaitzi gavri me'avula at sichra." It means the amount of people that can form a line, form a procession from the gate of the city to the area where they're actually doing the burial. So again, if you have that many people, that's the appropriate amount of people. Less than that, so you need more people to come. Rav Sheshes says, "Kinisi nasa." It's just like when the Torah was given, kach netilasa, so too when the Torah is taken away, meaning so too when a Torah scholar dies. Manisi nasa b'shishim ribo, just like when the Torah was given, there were 600,000 men. Af netilasa b'samach ribo, so too if a Torah scholar dies, an appropriate amount of people would be 600,000 men. And hani milu leman dekari v'tani. Now that's for a person who reads and learns. Avalaman demasni, but somebody who even teaches, less le'shiura, there is no amount. The Gemara continues, Tanya, we learned in a brayso, Rav Shimon ben Yochai Omer, Rav Shimon bar Yochai says, Bo'u re'ei kamu chavivin Yisrael lifnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Come and see how beloved the Jewish people are in front of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shebechol makom shegalu shchina imoin, because everywhere where they're exiled, the Shechina is with them. Galu leMitzrayim shchina imoin. When they were exiled to Mitzrayim, the Shechina was with them. Shenemar, like the pasuk says, "Haniglo niglesi leveis avicha biyosam in Mitzrayim." I was in the house of your fathers in Mitzrayim. Again, the Shechina was with them in Mitzrayim. Galu leBavel, when they were exiled to Bavel, Shechina imoin, the Shechina was with them. Shenemar, like the pasuk says, "Lemanchem shilachti Bavel." Again, I was sent to Bavel. V'av kashein asidin ligal, and even in the future when they'll be redeemed, Shechina imoin, the Shechina is with them. Shenemar, like it says, "V'shav Hashem elokecha shavuscha." Hashem will return. The Heishav lo nemar doesn't say he's going to cause you to return. Ela v'shav, it means even HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself is going to return. Melamed HaKadosh Baruch Hu shav imoin mibein hagolius, comes to teach us that HaKadosh Baruch Hu returns with them from among the exile. And the Gemara says, "Bebavel hecha." In Bavel, we said the Shechina is with them. Where exactly was the Shechina residing in Bavel? Amar Abaye says, "Bevei Kenishta de Hutzel," in the Beis HaKnesses of Hutzel, or Bevei Kenishta de Shav v'Yosef ben Nahardoi, and in the Beis HaKnesses that was destroyed but then restored in Nahardoi. V'lo teima hacha v'hacha, and don't say the Shechina was in both places simultaneously. Ela zimnin hacha v'zimnin hacha, rather sometimes it was here and sometimes it was here. Amar Abaye says, "Teisili, I should get credit. Techimur achigna parsa, if I'm a parsa away from one of these synagogues, Eilano umatzlino hasam, I make sure to go up and I daven over there." Avua de Shmuel v'Levi have a Yosvi b'Knishta de Shav Yosef ben Ardoi. The father of Shmuel and Levi, they were sitting in the Beis HaKnesses that was destroyed and then restored in Ardoi. As Shechina, and the Shechina came, so Shama Kol Riksha, they heard a very loud noise. So Kama v'Nafku, so they got up and they left the shul. Rav Sheshes have a Yosef b'Vei Knishta de Shav Yosef ben Ardoi. Rav Sheshes also, he was sitting in the Beis HaKnesses that was destroyed and then restored in Ardoi. As Shechina, the Shechina came below Nafek and he didn't leave. Also Malachei Asharis, so then the angels came, the Kama Vasulim, they were trying to scare him, they were trying to get him to leave. Amar Lefonov, so he said to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Ribbono shel Olam, master of the world, Olav v'sheino Olav, if you have somebody who's wretched and somebody who's not wretched, in other words, Rav Sheshes was saying, compared to the angels, I am nothing. So mi nidchem ipnei mi, who should be pushed off because of whom? Meaning I shouldn't be the one to have to leave because of the malachim. So Amar Lahu, so HaKadosh Baruch Hu said to the angels, Shavkuhu, let him be. And the Gemara continues, the pasuk says, V'ay lohem lemikdash ma'at, it says for a miniature Beis HaMikdash. Amar Rabbi Yitzchak. Rabbi Yitzchak says, what does that refer to? Elu bate knasios ubate midrash shebebavel. The Mikdash ma'at refers to the shuls and the Beis Medrashes in Bavel. Rabbi Elazar says, Zeh Beis Rabbeinu shebeBavel. This was the house of our master, of our Rebbe in Bavel. Rashi over here says, Beis Rabbeinu Rav, that refers to the house of Rav. And the Gemara continues, Darash Rava Darshan D'mai Dichsiv. What does the pasuk mean when it says, Hashem Ma'on Atah Yisalanu? It says, Hashem, you're the place where we reside. Elu Bate Knasios Uvate Midrashos. That refers to the Beis HaKnesses and the Beis HaMedrash. Amar Abaya says, Mereish Hava Gorisna Bebeso Matzlina Bevei Kanishta. Originally, I used to learn in my house, and I would daven in the Beis HaKnesses. Kaven Desham is Lahad Kamar David, but when I heard this pasuk that David HaMelech says, this is the pasuk in Tehillim, pasuk says, Hashem Ahavti Ma'on Beisecha, I love the place where you reside, Hava Gorisna Bevei Kanishta. So then I began to learn in the Beis HaKnesses as well. Tanya, we learned in a brayso, Rabbi Elazar HaKafar, Rabbi Elazar HaKafar says, Asidin Bate Knasios Bate Midrash shebeBavel. In the future, the shuls in the Beis Medrash in Bavel, in the future, Sheyikvu Be'eretz Yisrael, they'll be established in Eretz Yisrael. Shenemar, like the pasuk says, Ki ketavor b'horim u'chekarmel vayam yavo, and like Tavor among the mountains, and like Carmel by the sea, so he should come. And the Gemara says, V'alo dvarim kal v'chomer. Really, this is a kal v'chomer. Umat Tavor v'Carmel, if the mountains of Tavor and the mountains of Carmel, shelo bo el lefisha lilmo Torah, they only got transported momentarily to learn Torah. Nikvoim be'eretz Yisrael, they'll be established in Eretz Yisrael. So Bate Knasios, so Bate Midrashos, so in the Beis Knesses and the Beis Medrash, Shekornu Marbitzin ben Torah, where they read and they spread Torah, Alachas Kama v'Kama, certainly those will be established in Eretz Yisrael. And Rashi over here says, Uche Carmel bayam yavo lamadnu sha'avar Carmel as hayam. This is teaching us that Carmel, the mountain, it traveled over the sea. When was that at the time of Matan Torah? This follows the idea of the Medrash that the various mountains came at the time of Matan Torah, and they asked that the Torah be given upon them. So it's saying they only came lefisha, they only came momentarily, and they're transported to Eretz Yisrael, alachas kama v'kama, when it comes to the Bate Knasios and the Bate Midrashos. And the Gemara continues, Darash bar kapara darshin d'mai dichsiv. What does the pasuk mean when it says, Lama teratz dun horim gavnunim? Why do you high mountains? Why do you look down upon Har Sinai? Yotz the Baskol v'yomer lahem. The Baskol came and said to them, Lama teratzu dinim Sinai. What are you doing a din? Why are you fighting with Har Sinai? Kulchem bali mumim atem etzel Sinai. The pasuk means to indicate that you're all like bali mumim. You have blemishes when relative to Sinai. How do we see that? Because Ksiv Hach, it says over here, Gavnunim, it uses the word Gavnunim. Or Ksiv Hasam, and it says over there, when it's talking about blemishes in the pasuk, it says Ogibein Odak, a similar kind of word. So the idea is that the other mountains are considered to have blemishes in relation to Sinai. Amar Rav Ashi, and Rav Ashi says, Shmami, no, you see from this, Haiman Diyor, somebody who's arrogant, Baal Mumu, is considered somebody who has a blemish. These mountains were arrogant, they wanted the Torah to be given upon them, and they're considered to be Baalei Mumin. And the Gemara continues at the Tudat, say no kapendoria. You're not allowed to use a Beis HaKnesses as a shortcut. My kapendoria, what is this word kapendoria? Amar Rava says kapendoria kishma. It's exactly what it sounds like. My kishma. The Gemara says, what do you mean? It's exactly what it sounds like. Command to Amar ademakifna adri eyol baha. It's like somebody saying, instead of going around, let me go in through this. In other words, that's the idea. You want to use it as a shortcut. Amar Rabbi Avo says, if it was already a path originally, this was an original shortcut before the Beis HaKnesses was there, then it's going to be mutter. Amar Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, and Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak says, Hanichnas al manas shelo lasos kapendoria. Let's say you go into the Beis HaKnesses, your intention is not to use it as a shortcut, so mutter lasos kapendoria. It's okay to use it as a shortcut once you're already in there. For some other reason, you can go through and use the shortcut. Rabbi Chelbo says in the name of Rav Huna, Hanichnas lebeis HaKnesses lispalel. If somebody enters a shul in order to daven, mutter la'asoso kapendoria, you can also use it as a shortcut again, because that wasn't your original intention when you entered. Shenamar, like the pasuk says, Ubevo ha'ma'aretz lefnei Hashem b'moadim habo derech shar tzafon l'shtachavos yetze derech shar negev. It talks about the fact that the people, they would come in on the holidays through the northern gate, and they would exit through the southern gate. You see there that they're using it as a kind of a shortcut. Rashi over here explains that the makifna adre eol boha, instead of going around the houses, let me go through this house. Bo'od sha'akif shuro shel batim halolu, instead of going around this row of houses, akonis derech habayis hazel, go through this house. Ve'exar saderech mimavoi lemavoi, it'll make a shortcut from one alley to the other. Ubeis HaKnesses bein shneim, and there's a shul between the two of them. That's the basic idea. Again, you're using it as a shortcut. Meikara kodem shenim the Beis HaKnesses sham. The Gemara said that if it was already a shortcut before there was a shul there, so then it's going to be okay. And the Gemara continues at the two dots. We said, let's say you have a ruined synagogue, and the grass starts growing there, you shouldn't uproot the grass because you want to cause people distress. They should be distressed that the Beis HaKnesses has been ruined. The Gemara says, Vatanya, but we learned in a Braisha, Eino Tola Shumachil, you're not allowed to uproot the grass in order to feed your animals. Aval Tola Shumenech, but you are allowed to uproot the grass and just leave it there. And so the Gemara says, Ki Tanan Nami Masnisin Tola Shumachil Tanan. No, even our Mishnah just meant you're not allowed to uproot it and feed it to your animals, but indeed if you uproot it and leave the grass over there, that's not a problem. Tana Rabban and the rabbis taught Beis HaKvaros by a cemetery, Ein no hagen ben kalas rosh, you're not allowed to act in a frivolous, lighthearted manner. Ein marin behen behema, you're not allowed to graze animals over there. Vein molichin ben amas hamayim, you can't direct a channel of water through there. Vein malaktin ben asavim, you're not allowed to collect grass over there. The idea also to collect the grass in order to feed the animals. And if you did collect the grass, sarfon b'makom, and you have to burn it in that spot. Mibnei covered mason, because of the honor of the dead. Gemara says, Ahaya, this last line, because of the honor of the dead, what is it going on? What part of the brisa? Ilema safe, if it's going on the end of the brisa where it says you burn the grass on the spot. Kevan shasarfim b'makom, if you're just burning it right there, my covered mason mika, how does that show any honor to the dead? Ella areisha, so the Gemara says, rather that line's going on the beginning of the brisa. The beginning of the brisa said you're not allowed to act in a lighthearted manner. Why? Because of the covered mason. And the Gemara continues with the Mishnah, Rosh Chodesh Adar Shechol Lios b'Shabbos. Let's say Rosh Chodesh Adar falls out on Shabbos. Korin b'Parsha Shkolim. So then that week, you're going to read Parsha Shkolim. Chol Lios b'Socha Shabbos. Now let's say Rosh Chodesh Adar falls out during the middle of the week. So Makdim and L'Shavar. So then you read Shkolim, the Shabbos right before Rosh Chodesh Adar. Umafsikin L'Shabbos Acheres. And then you take a break for one Shabbos in terms of reading from the special Parshios. B'Shniya, now in the second Shabbos is Zohar, you read the Parsha Zohar. B'Shlish is Para Aduma. The third Shabbos, that's Parshas Para. B'Revius, and then on the fourth Shabbos, HaChodesh Hazel Lochem, that's Parshas HaChodesh, you read the Parsha of HaChodesh Hazel Lochem. B'Chamishis Chozrin L'Chesidra, and then on the fifth week, so then you go back to the regular laning. L'chol mafsikin b'Rosh Chodashim, b'Chanukah, u'v'Purim, b'Tanios, u'v'Mamados, u'v'Yom HaKippurim. Rashi over here explains the last line of the Mishnah, L'chol mafsikin milikros b'inyan hayom, v'kor b'inyan moed. On all of these holidays, you don't lane the normal parsha. Instead, you lane something that has to do with the holidays, me'in ha'ma'ora, something connected with what happened on the holidays. And one of the ones in the list was L'ma'amados. That was when they used to gather the Korban b'Maisa Bereshis, and then they would read Maisa Bereshis. Kenektani l'Kamon b'Masisim. We're going to learn that later on in the Mishnah. And we'll take a look at a few of the earlier Rashis. Korban b'Parsha Shkolim. You read Parsha Shkolim. Lahodia shiyaviu sheklein ba'adr. This tells people they should bring their machatz hashekel in Adar kadesh yakrivu b'echad b'Nisan mitruma chadasha. That was in order to bring from the new Shkolim. You would start bringing the public karbanos in Nisan. Then you take a break for one Shabbos. Milomar Parsha Shniya. You don't read Parsha Zohar immediately the next Shabbos, the second Shabbos. Kadesh Tikra Parsha Zohar b'Shabbos hasmuchal Purim. The idea is you always want to read Parsha Zohar on the Shabbos right before Purim. Lismoch mechias Amalek lemechias Haman. You want to put the destruction of Amalek near the destruction of Haman. Para Aduma lahaziris Yisrael letar shiyasu b'schein metara. The reason we read Parshas Parah is to tell people they should become pure so that they bring the Korban Pesach in purity. But Revi'as HaChodesh HaZalachem Shasham Parshas HaPesach, that has to do with Pesach. And just in reference to the end of the Mishnah, all of these are regular holidays over here. Again, Rosh Chodesh, Chanukah, Purim, Ta'anios is talking about fast days, Yom HaKippurim, all of those, of course, you interrupt the regular laning. And Mamados was the gathering. Again, they had shifts that worked in the Beis HaMikdash. So you had some Kohanim that actually worked on shift in the Beis HaMikdash. And then you also had these gatherings. These were the people that were like representatives of the public as the Bailim on the Korbanos. So they used to gather and they used to read, as we said, from Maaseh Bereshis. And the Gemara says, Tanan Hasam, we learned in a Mishnah over there, this is a Mishnah in Shkolim, Be'echad Ba'adar, on the first of Adar, Mashmiyan al Shkolim, we announce about the Shkolim, and we'll continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Chavtes Amud Beis.